good afternoon. Welcome, Friday. Jeez, what is today's date? The 25th of September 2020. I don't know, this year is just rushing by with all of its glory and challenges and, curveballs and I don't know what else it's throwing at us, but that's quite cool. I'm enjoying the challenge and but just crazy how quickly time flies, right? And I just said to my guest Adam before we started that, I'm actually glad it's Friday. Usually I don't live for Fridays, I live for Mondays. We've got stuff to do and there's things to learn and things to sort of act on. But I must say, I don't know, for a change I'm happy, even though yesterday was a public holiday here in South Africa. That is cool. What was yesterday was Heritage Day, right? And then also in South Africa, we also celebrate Braai Day at the same time. So, I think Braai is a part of our heritage. So that is a perfect fit. And really, really happy to have had the opportunity for another one. So this afternoon, Adam Owen is my guest. I look forward to introducing him in a second. It may feel to you like you're seeing double when you see the two of us together, but luckily there's one sort of feature that sets the two of us apart. But he's like sort of it looks like my twin from the other side of the dam, on the other side of the ocean from the UK. So very happy to have Adam with us, and I look forward to chatting to him this afternoon. We're also launching I don't know how to put it. It's just an amazing, amazing opportunity for 30 financial planners here in South Africa. There's going to be 30 financial planners from Australia, from the UK, from the US, and then 30 from South Africa that's going to get this opportunity. And I'm really excited to share that with you later this afternoon. And I'm going to let Adam make the announcement, actually. So, really, really looking forward to that one. Before I introduce him, let me quickly say hi, Francis. So, Francis, Adam, just for you, she's saying that her ears are wide open and she's listening. She can't wait to hear what we've got to share. Then we've got Adrian Jordan saying hi. Johan Vosloo, goeiemiddag. Kuketsu, good afternoon. Norma, nice to see you. Hello. And Leroux Krokamp so far saying hi. If you're here, please say hi. I sort of know that, most people were on, maybe they took a long weekend. I never thought of that when we put together today's episode. But a lot of people, I think, I see a lot of pictures on social about people who are in the bush. So, I think a lot of people are there and we'll be watching the recording. So if you are, thank you very much. Please still say hi. Please still send me WhatsApps. However you want to communicate, you're more than welcome to do that. Carol, good afternoon. Nice to have you with us as well. So good stuff. Let me just quickly see. I don't have a lot to announce. So I hardly have anything to announce, to be honest. Just a last reminder of the Financial Planning Summit taking place from the 12th until the 14th of October. And you can go and register 575 Rand. I think Adam will say, well, that's nothing if you look at it in pounds. So I don't know what the conversion is. 600 divided by 20 is what? I don't know, 30 bucks in pounds. So I don't know if that's a lot, Adam. But so 575 Rand, 3 days of content, phenomenal speakers, phenomenal topics. So please go and register. There's over 700 registrations already. So you're more than welcome to join us for that one. And I think that is sort of my only announcement for this afternoon. So let's get into it. It's my privilege to welcome my friend Adam all the way from the UK. I can't remember, Adam, where in the UK are you? I don't think I ever asked you.
Oh, Francois, good afternoon. I'm here in the northwest of England, so I'm sort of right in between Liverpool and Manchester. So hopefully a lot of our viewers will know Liverpool or Manchester for their two great football teams. Sorry, I should say 4 great football teams, shouldn't I? So Liverpool and Manchester, right in between there. There's a little place called St Helens. It's internationally known as a production centre for glass. So double glazing, windows, all sorts of industrial uses, and they've got quite a good rugby league team as well. So that's where I'm coming from today.
Awesome stuff. So Adam, welcome, a warm South African welcome to the show. Really nice to have you with us. You and I've been speaking a lot, in the recent times, and I'm very happy that we connected. And as we sort of had some chats, and we even had a virtual beer, you and I, to see if we really get along or not. you know, were you maybe my twin brother that was stolen from the hospital at some point and then
I'm
exported to
wondering.
the UK?
Yeah, I'm wondering if the viewers have worked out what it is, that physical feature you were talking about that separates us.
I think they're scratching their heads. They're not sure. So, yeah, Adam, just maybe do a quick introduction, just who you are, what it is that you do, a little bit of your background, and then we'll get into the show.
Yeah, of course. So as it is right now, I spend most of my time actually looking at helping people build their careers in financial services. But my career in financial services started in the mid 1990s, and I've done all sorts of things. I started off as a financial advisor, moved into financial planning, set up as a compliance consultant, did some general insurance broking along the way. I then pivoted to training and learning and development, and then strategic consultancy, and now, having been involved in professional bodies and regulation and all that type of stuff, I look after content at NextGen Planners and the development program there, the NextGen Planners training contract, and really our focus is just helping people into the profession. So we take people from very, very early stages in their career, or even pre-career at university, and we work right the way through to boardroom level.
Okay, so is that what NextGen Planners? I mean, that's the focus. How long have you been around, and sort of what started NextGen Planners? I mean, if we can start there, like what prompted the thing to start that, and who was involved in starting it?
Well, the story goes it was two disgruntled northerners in a pub, and my very good friends and colleagues, Adam Carolan and Rohan Sivajoti, they were younger financial planners at the time. They're not quite that young now, but they started their careers, and they'd attended many of the standard industry and profession events, and their view was that there wasn't something that was specifically for younger financial planners here in the UK. And so they thought, well, why don't they start something? And NextGen Planners began as a Facebook community, and it grew quite quickly, and they realized that there was a demand for more content, and that's when they contacted me and a couple of other people as part of the NextGen Planners team, as we are now, and set up NextGen Planners as a more formal entity, a membership organization. And over the last 4 years, we've tried a few things out. We've tested what works, what the community really wants. We've engaged with the community, and the great thing is the community is engaged with each other as well. And we're now sat as a sort of a 300 plus member community. We provide training facilities and training services, but we provide a platform and a program for people to develop their careers. So our job is very much to create the space for people's careers to flourish.
And are you primarily UK focused, or do you actually have an international member base?
Well, we started off UK focused, but particularly over the last 12 months, we've noticed more and more international members joining, and of course, during lockdown, that's really taken off because we did a number of internationally focused events. And that's how so many of us, like you and I, have met around the world from those internationally focused events. But we've got members in Singapore, and we've got members coming from all over the world now, and just beginning to share everybody's experiences. And I think that's, I'm sure you find that as well in South Africa, that our community is at its best when actually people begin to share their ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting. And the reason why I ask you sort of that is to lead into the start of this conversation about, if we really look at collaboration and we talk about collaboration, there's many ways that one could collaborate. And I don't know in the UK, but in South Africa, in the good old days, it sometimes felt like we see each other as competition and not as colleagues and peers. We may call ourselves that, there's my colleague and he's a fellow advisor or she's a fellow advisor. But at the end of the day, I don't know if we always really lived it out like we maybe should. And the nice thing about as time has evolved, and I don't know how much things like RDR and in our world phase and, the professionalization of the industry has really played a role so far. But it feels like people are seeing that, if we take hands and we really share best practices and we talk about our experiences and our challenges, and we sort of look for help from each other and from other people that are also in in the trenches, so to speak, that's doing what I'm doing every single day, that's quite cool. There's actually enough sun to go around for everybody. And I think, as you said, like the whole collaboration thing, doing international events, getting to speak to people from different countries and realizing, what, we all have the same challenges, or similar, let me say similar, maybe not same, but similar challenges, and there's a lot that we can do by helping each other from that point of view. So my question to you with that very long sort of intro is, what are you seeing in NextGen specifically from that point of view? You said like this community started to form, there's over 300 members, they started to collaborate or to share, and what are some of the things that you're seeing that this is really producing as a result at the end of the day? What is it that's coming out of this that's so awesome and that we need to do more with?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always like a question that says, what are you doing that's so awesome? So that's a great start point, isn't it? But I also like what you say in terms of there's enough sun to go around for everybody. And you're absolutely right. And, if we think back, I, as yourself, came through, into the profession quite a little while ago. And, we were both children of the 1970s and 1980s. We grew up in that time, didn't we? And as I was growing up here, we were, of course, in Thatcher's Britain. And, the overriding ethos and culture in business seemed to be, a win-lose mentality. If I win, then somebody else has got to lose. And I think that maybe our profession, particularly, I speak from here in the UK, but our profession carried that through in its early stages. And, RDR was a big turning point to look to professionalize. And the professional bodies, the Chartered Insurance Institute and the Personal Finance Society for Financial Planners, which is 15 years old just last week, have done a lot of work in terms of professional standards and, looking to drive and create a united profession where we don't openly criticize each other, for example, just as a start point, or at least not publicly criticize each other. But I think that win-lose philosophy and mentality, I see that now retreating into the background a lot more. And, no more so than with this sort of next generation of financial planners and the people who are, aspiring to be financial planners. Because it was the biggest shock for me, when I met these two disgruntled Northerners from their pub the first time, and we all got together for a bite to eat, went for a tapas, and they were saying, well, actually, we see the world differently than your generation, they said to me with a frown. And
you're
I
the
thought,
old man there then.
Oh, I am the old man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, still are. Oh, damn.
Absolutely, still, yeah, absolutely. It's it is, it's a mentality, next generation planners. But I am definitely, somebody referred to me last week as an older statesman, and okay. I think if you get referred to as an older statesman, that's saying something, isn't it? But yeah, the thing that surprised me most when we actually began to create the forum, and when we began to get people together as a community, that it just didn't exist, that win-lose mentality. What we had was, people that just immediately were happy to collaborate. And what they realized very quickly within the membership is everybody's got the same questions, and there are no daft questions because we all arrive not knowing what we don't know. And so, with each new cohort that comes through into the membership and with more people that joining, they start with those same questions. But the community itself, we've got our forum, and we're now over 70,000 messages that have been placed on that forum. And I read every thread, and there's not a single negative comment in there. People are asking technical questions, people are asking questions about business, their careers. They're asking questions about, how to deal with a particular client scenario, and on the soft skills side as well as on the technical side, and sharing their wins as well. We have, one of the best channels in our forum is the Friday Wins channel, where on a Friday today, everyone will share the things that they've enjoyed about the week, what they've done well, their little wins that they've had, some really big wins that they've had. And it's an absolute joy to watch. And, I don't know what it's like in South Africa, but on social media, I follow all of the Twitter social media for financial advisors. I should probably find a whole different bunch of people to follow, shouldn't I, on social media, because you just get that massive echo chamber. But people still operate on those social media platforms in a particular way, and it's not always positive, and it's not always encouraging. And I think I still see some of that win-lose mentality. And rather than applauding somebody, it's a lot easier, or it seems to be a lot more prevalent on social media, that people will look to drag them down when they begin to succeed. I think our Australian financial planning community, is it tall poppy syndrome is a phrase that they have in Australia, isn't it? And, it's this idea that we sometimes don't like to see people succeeding. And that doesn't happen in this NextGen planners community. When somebody succeeds, everybody cheers. And it inspires people to then look to succeed themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you and I had a chat like a few weeks ago, one of the things we discussed was, or that you actually mentioned to me, was that you refuse to be a member of a panel if it's an all-male panel. So that's sort of one of your things, because you are very much serious about inclusion and diversity and all of that stuff for everybody to get the opportunity and their piece of the sun. Then to go back to what I said earlier. So do you think that this way of collaboration, the way that, we build communities and forums, and it's the same thing that XY is doing, and, there's some other people doing it in their own way. But, do you think that this is going to enhance, inclusion, and that's going to make it better, and it is going to make financial planning more inclusive and more representative of what the world looks like, if you will? Do you think that that's the place to start? Or where do you see things are, and where is it going in terms of, are we really making headway in really including everybody and giving everybody an opportunity in this profession of ours?
I think, it's a really interesting question. And, I know we've not got hours this afternoon, because that's one of those things, it's a topic that we could spend hours talking about, isn't it? But I think for me, we are making some headway, of course, with inclusion within the profession. But if we are going to include the public in financial planning and in access to financial services, if we're going to bridge the advice gap, then to be a profession for everybody, we've got to be a profession of everybody. And still, when we look at our profession, if you go to conferences and so on and so forth, it's a lot of people that look like you and I oftentimes, isn't it? It's a lot of white middle-aged men. And not that there's anything wrong with white middle-aged men. I've been one for most of my life. But I think that sometimes if we're going to make real progress, and if we're going to make progress more quickly, I think that some of us need to get out of the way. And that's the only way that we'll make real progress, is to acknowledge that you don't need 4 white middle-aged men on a stage to be a panel. And if there are 4 white middle-aged men on a stage, then my goal is to get off that stage and leave that space for somebody else. And I think if more of us took that stance and said, actually, I'm not going to, or more of us white middle-aged males at least, said, I'm not going to sit on a panel that is all male, then it's just one step, isn't it? It's one step towards more diversity and more inclusion. But of course, that is only one step. And, there are so many ways in which we could diversify our community and financial planning and work harder at doing that. And, I speak from a UK perspective, of course, because, our profession isn't very diverse in the UK. I'm not saying that's the same right the way across the world. I don't know, how are things in South Africa in terms of the financial planning profession?
Yeah, I think, honestly, we have made a lot of progress, from that point, and it's still got a long way to go. And I think so the question that I'm thinking about is that, what is, if we say, well, we want the public's trust, we want the public to be part of financial services, to be involved in it, etc. What should the profession look like? What does it look like when there is full inclusion of everybody in this profession? What does it look like? How would we know that, listen, we've arrived at that point that we wanted to? Or is there, will we ever arrive at that point, where we can say, you know what, this is an inclusive profession. Because I also believe it's not only our profession that struggles with sort of this. There are many professions where previously, like women it's just not a traditional place where women would be. One of the things that I strongly feel is that, the future of financial planning is women, simply because of their natural levels of empathy and their natural levels of care, and where they come from. So it's just like it makes them just, naturally gifted, I think, if you look at it from a financial planning perspective. But I mean, it's not only about men and women, right? So inclusion goes way beyond that. And do you know what that picture sort of looks like? And then how are we going to know that, look, either we're making phenomenal progress globally, or, that we've actually arrived at the place that we think this is what it should look like.
Yeah, and I think actually in different age categories, we are far more in the place where I think it looks like it should look. I do a lot of work in universities. We have our university boot camp program. So what we do, we go into universities that do economics or financial planning degrees in the UK, and we meet with the undergraduates. So these are students that have maybe got their final year to do, and we put them through the paces a little bit with some training, and particularly some soft skills areas and things like that. And then we set up a day where we bring the university undergraduates together with employers, and we put them through their paces in a boot camp. There's X Factor style judging that goes on and all sorts of other things, and what that does, it helps the employers really see the skill sets. Because when you get a piece of paper, a degree, and a CV, it doesn't really engage with that person, does it? And what I see at university right now is a huge range of diversity, and that I think is really encouraging. But what we then need to do, if there is diversity in the younger age bracket, then we as a profession need to attract as many of those people in that age bracket as possible to financial planning. And financial planning isn't hugely expected to be a career choice for people in economics degrees, in my experience. I'll stand in front of a room of 50 or 60 economics and financial planning students, and many of them are thinking they want to go and be wealth managers, they want to go and work with one of the big accountancy and audit practices. They don't necessarily see being a financial planner as a first choice career. And so, if there is diversity at university level, which there is, and we're not seeing that filter through into our profession, then that says to me that there's more work that our profession needs to do to make it a career that is desirable in the minds of people who may not have heard of financial planning as a career choice, or don't consider it as a first career choice.
Yeah, and I'm standing here thinking that, I don't know, and we have the same issue here in South Africa. Like, the youngsters, it's almost like it's one of those, it's my only alternative. It's maybe I'm not getting work anywhere else, so let me go and become a financial advisor and possibly make it, or possibly, or whatever their view is. It's very seldom that you find where it's usually when the father has a practice and they grew up in this sort of industry, and they think like, I would also love to do that. Because, I mean, there's many examples like that in South Africa specifically, where sons are following their fathers, or daughters are following their parents into the business, and then that's what they do. Also, what I often find is like, somebody would start to work in the industry, and they would be assistants, or they would do maybe a bit of paraplanning or things, and then say, but I can do this, and then they become financial advisors. But as you say, I've never heard of anybody. I mean, we want to be all sorts of funny stuff, right? So we want to be firemen, and we want to be doctors and lawyers, and we want to work at the supermarket till when you're very young. So you want to do all these weird and funky things, but nobody ever says at 5 years old, when I grow up, I'm going to be a financial advisor, right? So my question, actually, I know I'm like just sharing a few opinions, but my question is, what do you think is, like, just from your perspective, what is that barrier to that don't make? Is it just awareness? Is it a lack of awareness? Is it the fact that it's not really a career choice that is being discussed at school level? But what is that barrier that's keeping younger people, or the next generation, actually wanting to become financial advisors and financial planners? Is it one, because of the way they view us, possibly, in like their perception of us? Or is it a lack of awareness? Or where do you think the issue sits? Maybe, hopefully you've got something that I haven't thought of Like, what do you think is the problem there?
I think actually it's at multiple levels. I think one of the key things is that certainly, again, I can speak of here in the UK, we've spent the last 15 years very much turned inward and looking at ourselves as a profession and wondering why the public don't trust us, and wondering what we can do to improve public trust, and looking at how we as a profession improve professionalism, looking at more exam qualifications, looking at methods and processes, and looking to develop the profession. But of course, if you spend all your energy looking inward, you're not spending as much energy looking outward. And so I think there's been a big gap in actually, spending time with the consumer, with the public, with people who don't know a lot about financial planning, and make financial planning something that is part of the conversation. Education in schools is really important, because the power of being able to control your financial future, and that doesn't have to involve a financial planning process. That just involves education and just inclusion and the ability to be included in the conversation. That's so important. And I think we should spend a lot more time actually talking to people who aren't in financial planning, and creating content. This is great. I have a great time talking to yourself and lots of other colleagues, but actually we should probably spend a bit of time creating content that is focused at having a conversation with people who aren't financial planners. So I think that's one thing, and that does make or will make a difference. But I think also, one of the things is that as a profession, we haven't done brilliantly at giving the impression that we are trustworthy. Individually, I think there's a lot of very trustworthy financial planners, of course. And if you were to speak to a financial planner and say, do your clients trust you? I think most, if not all financials would say, yes, my clients trust me. And we find that actually our own clients trust us because they've got to know us. We have a relationship with them. We work with them on a one-to-one basis. Here in the UK, when we survey the population, people don't trust financial planners. And so my clients might trust me, but they won't trust you, for example. And as a profession, what we need to do is we need to move to a point where we are trusted as a collective rather than just individuals. And I think if we can do that, that's a point where we actually find a tipping point in universities where people think, I want to join a trusted profession. And, I want to be proud of doing that. And, we are also proud of the fact that we are in financial planning and we do this job. But actually, I don't think people who look at this job think it's necessarily something that they would be proud to do, because it only takes one negative story and, a big negative story maybe, to actually people to spot that. We can spend days talking about all the good stuff, but it's undermined when the news media focus on the bad stuff. And of course they're going to focus on that because that's where detriment occurs. And so we would have to work 5, 10, 15, 20 times harder to overcome the negative stories. And that's a lot of effort. And so, I would say that we need to turn away from talking to each other sometimes and actually go and have a conversation with and find out what people want from financial planning. Talk to people and how do we break down that barrier? Because one of the biggest barriers to people engaging with a financial planner is fear that they might pick the wrong one. And we don't have that many great role models in TV or media. We had here in the UK, I don't know if you're familiar with Coronation Street, but our longest running soap opera is a thing called Coronation Street, based in Manchester, just down the road from me. And we, a few years ago, had a financial planner character in Coronation Street. And I was, at the time, I was a young financial planner, just started out. I thought, this is great. There's somebody who does my job in a mainstream soap opera on television. How good is that? He turned out to be a multiple serial killer. So ultimately, I don't think it did our profession any great favors. And so, we need some role models in the media. We need people to be there doing good works. And, the role of a financial planner needs to be, in a TV drama something that is not dissimilar to that of an accountant or solicitors. We see plenty of TV drama characters who are ancillary in their jobs, a solicitor or an accountant or whatever it might be. You don't see that many who are financial planners. So I think we've got a big public message and a big exercise in public messaging.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, like, in all the movies that are made around this, The Big Short, Wolf of Wall Street, what was the other one? There was another one as well. It's just like, it's not the good stories that will ever make it into the movie. Maybe the closest ever was Pursuit of Happiness was maybe the closest one,
I think maybe so, but most of the time, financial planners aren't the hero, are they? And I think that maybe if we as a profession begin to think about, who would star as us as the hero of a movie who is also a financial planner, and that's maybe a few decades off. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. A few decades, I don't know, but let's say not a few decades, but a couple of years. This younger generation coming through. There's all this new innovation and everything happening in terms of technology. I fondly remember about 3, 4, 5 years ago, was it 2015, 16, round about there? Robo-advice was the talk of, like, this is going to take over, artificial intelligence. And I watched a very interesting conversation that somebody had with Steve Wozniak the other day. And he was saying, like, there's no such thing as artificial intelligence. It doesn't exist because no computer gets up in the morning and thinks, what am I going to do today? You've got to give it instructions and it will run it, and it can do a lot of stuff. He says that what we coin as artificial intelligence is simply computers doing what computers are able to do. So coming into their own of what they were always supposed to do and that kind of thing. But he doesn't believe that there's any intelligence whatsoever. So that's his view. But we also know that Steve Wozniak is very, if you've been a contrarian, I think he is definitely one of those, that he would always go the opposite way. But if we look at things like AI, we look at things like 5G, some people saying it's making us sick. Some people say it's the best invention that's come our way in a long time. All of these things. And then we look at, how the consumer has evolved, younger people, the younger generations, how they view money. They saw what their parents did and how their parents worked with money. And we know that parents also are, in most cases, uncomfortable to speak to their children about finances. It's very difficult for them to have those conversations. And I think because of imposter syndrome, probably because it's a case of do what I tell you to do, don't do what I do, because they're very bad examples, So we know what must be done, but we also don't do that. So taking all of those things into account, so where do you see, where are we headed? Where do you think the profession is going? And with these younger guys and ladies and all of it coming through, in the next few years, it's not that long off anymore. I look at very successful young financial advisors. They're not even 30 years old yet. Others are struggling who's that same age. So you never know. But where are we headed? What do you think, what's going to happen in the next few, I don't even want to go 10 years, but let's say in the next 10 years, do you have some form of sense where we're going?
Yeah, I do have a few thoughts on this. And I think the good news is that whatever happens in development of technology, I don't think we'll ever lose the need for human agency. And what I mean by that is I think that, a human guide, however good the technology gets, the end user, the person who's engaging with that technology, unless they are a financial planner themselves, they will need somebody to help them make sense of what the technology is producing. But I think that actually the technology will begin to really rapidly improve the experience that we can create for people. And you mentioned 5G, and there are a lot of people a bit worried about 5G at the moment, aren't there? I don't really particularly have a view, but I think that the ability of 5G to be able to create bandwidth anywhere, I think that suddenly does open up a couple of things. First of all, it has a real potential to improve inclusion. And the better the technology for that, then how great is that? But the other thing is, I think it makes it a lot easier to take us into a 3-dimensional space, but virtually. Right now, virtual reality for most of us isn't isn't a live thing. It's a games console type environment. But in the last 6 months, we've all got really used to chatting on this type of platform, haven't we? And that's nice. And seeing you in 2 dimensions is great, but just being able to see you in 3 dimensions and meet internationally as if we were in the same room, and it really felt like we were in the same room, and have people in different sites join a meeting in that way. So you might have your paraplanner and financial planner sat with clients, and they may be business clients in 2 different offices themselves, and you can all be then sat in what is essentially the same 3-dimensional experience. I think that improves so much the virtual communication that we will be able to have. And 5G gives us the capability of that. But whether that happens or not, I do think artificial intelligence, whether it's intelligent intelligence or whether we just use that as a moniker for a computer doing clever things, I think artificial intelligence does have a place to play in financial planning, but I'm not sure that it's a computer algorithm or a more intelligent device actually picking stocks and creating portfolios for clients. I think it's actually more in the soft skills space that artificial intelligence will begin to come to the fore, maybe not in 10 years, but maybe over the next 20 or 30 years. Because we're seeing even now, artificial intelligence is able to be deployed in the medical profession for diagnosis. Medical diagnosis is being enhanced in many areas because computers are far better at spotting those tiny things that we as human beings aren't great at spotting. Imagine then that you can create an artificial intelligence that can spot those emotional cues that we as humans may not be as good at spotting there and then in the moment. And, I could certainly see a situation in 15, 20, 30 years from now where whilst we're chatting on a screen, there's a little thing flashing up telling me how you're feeling about the way that I'm presenting this right now. Because at the moment, the only feedback I'm getting in terms of the words that I'm saying and the way I'm presenting is just to my right here. There's a screen with text chat. But I think artificial intelligence in the future will be able to read your reaction whilst I'm chatting and give me some feedback to that. Now, whether or not we ethically deploy that and whether or not society accepts it, then that's a whole different picture. But I think it will definitely have capability. And I think that we will have developed the capability to do that over those next maybe 3 decades.
In fact, you're talking about that. I know of a guy who's already invented something, or they've already created something like that could actually read cues. And I will be chatting to him at some point in the near future. But this stuff is, and isn't it funny, like the things we see in movies, how they do tend to come true, right? Like we would think, like if I think about something like Minority Report, if somebody can dream it up, it's going to happen at some point. It's just like how connected we are, how small the devices can become, and how efficient and reliable that can be. So I think many of the things that we actually see that's being put out there as sci-fi and that comes from somewhere. If somebody can dream it, I absolutely agree with you. And it'll be interesting to see, this whole thing. I think Mark Zuckerberg said that privacy is not, like everybody's so up in arms about privacy, but nobody cares about privacy because if they want something, it's the first thing that they trade for that. So there are obviously a few people who are very set on, I don't share this, I don't share that. Other people, like most of the people out there, I think are just, they don't care. As long as it makes their lives easier, it's there. But then that puts a huge responsibility on the person or the company or the business that is actually getting that information, to deal with it ethically and responsibly, because it's not a free-for-all kind of situation. So I think, and I think that's why we've got so long to go. I think like in many cases, the technology will be there. It is the implementation and the use of it that's going to take a bit of while to figure out how do we do that, in the best way possible.
Yeah, I think you're right, and in particular as well. I mentioned, didn't I, the element of human agency. I think that's the one thing that we as financial planners will be able to be at the forefront of. We will be at the vanguard, if the technology develops in that way, of protecting people's data, or at least guiding them through the choices that they make. Because I think there will be constantly that tension of trading data and privacy for access and convenience. And so, people will need somebody there to talk them through those choices, and that's where financial planners can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam, so I want to talk a little bit about earlier it's amazing actually how you and I, or like you and NextGen planners and I here in South Africa, we were doing sort of similar things at the same time, yet we didn't know about one another. But you also had kind of the same show set up as what I've got. I think you called it a breakfast show or something. Am I right? I can't remember.
We had our morning commute, and at the point where you had your epiphany to start your show, over in the UK, I was sort of having mine. I was stepping out my shower one Saturday morning thinking, I know what we need to do. We need to give people something to do during lockdown that gives them that space. And for ours, it was a morning show because, one of the things that the morning commute does for you is it gives you that opportunity to decompress between home and being ready for work. And, a lot of people working from home, you don't get that decompression. You go straight from feeding the kids their breakfast to being sat at your desk having a client meeting. So our morning commute became that. It was a daily show that was, presented by financial planners within our community, and loads of people got involved, and it was a magazine style show. So there was some content a little like this, there was some interview content, but then we really looked to highlight what some of our financial planning community do outside. So we had gardening tips, we had cookery, we had crafting, there was exercise tips, there was all sorts of things as well within the show. So it was a real sort of magazine style show during lockdown. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's sometimes I listen to these things and I think like, oh, I think about all this fun stuff to do and just, but that's amazing. I love it. And then you also did a 24-hour global commute where you presented the same show, was it, for 30 minutes, but every 30 minutes in another time zone?
Yeah, well, it was effectively, that was again one of my ideas, getting out the shower. I have all my best ideas there. But we wanted to sign off because we were coming out of lockdown, and to do a breakfast show during the time where people were commuting, obviously we didn't think that was going to be viable to continue. So we wanted to give it a big sort of send off. And I'd begun to talk with some colleagues around the world just via Zoom. And we thought, well, actually, there's an 8:30 in the morning 24 times all the way around the world. Why don't we do a breakfast show in every time zone? And so we did our 24-hour commute, and we had guests from just everywhere. It was brilliant. We had loads of help in terms of presenting, and we went through the entire 24 hours and launched a breakfast show in every time zone, right the way back to the UK. And it was just such a heartwarming experience to meet so many great planners from around the world.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's amazing. And you also have a conference that you do every single year. So the NextGen, there's a conference that you offer, but then obviously this can't happen in person at the moment. So is there going to be like a spillover from the commute to the conference?
Is this the time for me to do our big announcement and,
I think so,
and push out the opportunity that we've got here? Yeah. So in our conference this year, we were going to do a national conference, but in previous conferences at NextGen Planners, we'd booked the typical top speakers, the people that you'd book for a conference, and we had them on stage, and it didn't quite play to that thing that I was talking about earlier, which was giving a platform to other financial planners, to people who wouldn't normally have a platform. So for this conference year, we thought, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create a speaker and influencer program. And so we ran a 6-month speaker and influencer program. We had top professional speaker trainers, we had mental health coach, we had help with the narrative, and we helped our speakers really hone their talk for the conference. And we put them through this 6-month program, and it was all virtual. So it was virtual meetings and mentorship, etc. And at the end of that, they spoke at our conference. So everybody did a 10-minute TED style talk at the conference, and it gave people a load of confidence, but also they were brilliant. It was such a great experience. So for our 2021 conference, we thought, well, why change a great thing? Let's do it but let's combine the 24-hour global commute concept of meeting financial planners all over the world, and let's combine that with our next year's conference in June 2021 and create a speaker and influencer program, not for 30 people, but for 120 people, and take those 120 people from 4 nations, so Australia, the US, the UK, and South Africa, and then in June run our conference 36 hours and have 30 speakers in each of those 4 countries in a conference, in a virtual conference, and then finish in the UK on the final session, the final 8 hours. And so our speaker and influencer program for South Africa launches today. It's free for anybody who signs up. It starts in January, so we go through registration and selection because we're looking for 30 people, and we hope to be oversubscribed. We have a very strict 50-50 gender basis, so there'll be 15 men and 15 women involved, so there's 15 spaces there. And what we do is in January we'll launch with the speaker and influencer training. So anybody on the program will be able to come through that training program with us. We've got some great speakers and professional speaking coaches. We've got Dominic Colenso, who is a Hollywood actor and now professional speaking coach. We've got Kate Holmes, who's been on your show just recently, who's a brilliant presenter and just an amazing innovator. We've got Nick Elston, who's this year's mental health coach. He speaks all around the world on mental health issues because public speaking is it's stressful at times for people. It's one of the things that people can fear. So the program itself is entirely free. It's voluntary. We're looking for people who have, in the main, limited public speaking experience, or indeed, if you've got no public speaking experience, then that's great. And we have a 6-month program running from January to June. There are 4 or 5 set piece sessions, half-day events through that, and then regular mentorship. And then everybody will get a chance for 10 minutes to speak on our virtual stage in our 36-hour global celebration of financial planning.
It's amazing. I think it's an awesome opportunity. I think there's a lot of advisors who they attend conferences and they look at the people on stage and think like, I can do that, or I want to do that. I'm one of those. It's like that is the next thing that I want to do, is speak more on stage. And it's perfect for somebody like that. If you're already booked and you already travel the world and go speak everywhere, this is not the program for you, all right? But if you like either have no experience, or you have done a little bit of this here and there, but it is not, you don't do it professionally, you do it like when you're really asked to do it. You're also welcome to apply for this. I think it's amazing that we do like 50-50, 15 men, 15 women, which means we'll have 60 men, 60 women across the globe attending this program, which is phenomenal. And the impact that you can have through speaking. We were talking earlier, you and I now, about how do we change, or what was the barrier to entry. And one of the things is getting the message out there and letting the public know what it is that we do and how awesome it is, and to showcase that we can be trusted. And what better way to be able to go and talk on a stage, yes, in this case it's to other financial advisors, but you can take the same skill, the same experience, and go and talk at other conferences. You can arrange your own events and speak on that, You can do virtual stuff. So I think there's so many things that one can do for this. So well done for deciding to take this global. Thank you for choosing South Africa as one as well, and then in particularly to choose it to sort of launch it on this show and to take hands with me for us to drive it for you in South Africa, to get people to really take this opportunity to heart and enroll for this. So amazing. Where can people find out more, and where do they go to in fact apply? Adam, where should they go?
Yeah, we've got a page set up on our website, so nextgenplanners.co.uk/conference, and in there's some basic details of the program as I've sort of just described. And if you leave us your contact details there, then we'll leave that open for a week. And so a week today, midnight on a week, well, next Friday, whatever that is, whatever the date, we'll close that. And then whoever we've got will, if we're oversubscribed, then we'll run through a selection process where there'll be a short questionnaire, and then we'll arrange an interview. And for anybody who gets on the program through that selection process, then we'll start in January. But even for those who don't, then we'll still actually do quite a lot of additional support. Even if you're not going to be one of our conference speakers next year, then we'll let you come along for the journey in a number of sessions with us, and we'll be supportive for anybody who applies careers. Because the one thing about this is that we're really keen to support as many people as we can. So it's free to attend. There's no catches to it. We just want to do this because we really do want to promote financial planning across the world.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. There's also another thing that you do called Blast Off. I received an email, I think last week or the week before, or maybe last week and the week before, and maybe this week. There was a few emails talking about Blast Off. Can we also just maybe briefly talk about that and just what Blast Off is? And because I think it's also on that page, I saw you can choose if you're interested in Blast Off as well. But what is that about?
Yeah, of course. Blast Off is a new program that we've launched just over the last couple of weeks. Our first cohort is effectively setting up now, and there'll be future cohorts in a couple of months. And what we're doing there is essentially, one of the things that we found is that in the UK, and I'm sure this is the same globally, that setting up your own business is it's a challenge, and it can be lonely, and it can sometimes lack support. As a profession, we do compliance support quite well, but we're maybe not so great at doing business support. Thinking about operational integration, thinking about strategic planning, thinking about just simple things, how to raise finance, how to go about setting up HR, all of those other elements that you need within a business. But we look at it from a very financial planning experience space. So it's instructors there who have been there and lived it. We've all set up our own businesses in financial planning. We've all developed those businesses. We've had the challenges that that people will be having now. And so the program itself is a monthly program. So there's something that happens every month over 12 months, and it's just there to provide that level of support at a time where if you're launching a business, it really helps to sort of keep you on track and help with all of the things that actually take you away from doing the thing that you love. One of the biggest complaints that I hear from people in all aspects of financial planning is that they get so tied up with the business things that they forget or don't get chance to do the stuff that they started this for in the first place, which is spend that time with clients. So it's a full program, and again, all the details are available on the website.
Awesome stuff. Adam, thank you very much. I'm very excited about this, and I think it's a huge opportunity. We'll also send out more information and the links again via WhatsApp to my list, and then my email, people who are subscribed to the email as well. I will send out more information and the link to this as well, so you can go check it out if you're interested. And Adam, just from my side, thank you very much. Well done on everything you guys are doing on that side. I don't know if this is the twilight, or what do they call it? Like when there's parallel universes, it seems like something like that happening.
Well, Francois, thank you for the show as well, because it's an absolute joy to see what you're doing, and you're doing some great work. So from all of the people who watch your show live, or even watch it on recordings in the UK, because it's getting quite a following on LinkedIn and so on and so forth here in the UK. So thank you, and keep up the good work.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday. I have a phenomenal lady that'll be on the show on Tuesday. We're going to talk about some interesting things, a little bit different from what we're used to talking about, but really going to be talking some business stuff and also moving between places and challenges and just always keeping the bright side up. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to her. I will be sending out the information on Monday. But until then, have a fantastic weekend. Adam, stay safe. Have a cold one over there, and we'll chat soon.
Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you on Tuesday. Bye-bye.